Good evening, Olive, Arlo, and Frank. Grandpa coming to you from the living room in Jacksonville Beach. We're going to move on in the book of Exodus. We saw the Decalogue in chapter 20, the Ten Commandments. Now we're going to see a whole bunch of ordinances and building plans and things, and we're going to get into the meat and potatoes of the law, the everyday law for the Israelites as they wandered through the desert and then as they came up to the Promised Land. They don't get into the Promised Land in this book. So here's some ordinances. Verse 1 says, "These are the ordinances that you will set before them." So Moses is with God. God has given him the Ten Commandments, which are the biggies. You remember these, and you're good. Not that these aren't big. These are all things that they're supposed to do. If you buy a Hebrew servant, and so the reason that I am doing this full screen is that there's certain words that we might want to look at, and when you click on this number next to it, it'll take you over there. And so these are Hebrew servants, and some interpretations say slaves. And it was widely spread throughout the ancient world. If there was a war, the side that won would take the women as wives, and they'd take the men as slaves. Being a wife wasn't any better than just being a slave. But it's just the way that the world worked. And quite honestly, there's as much slavery around the world today as there ever has been. So it's not gone. And these people actually had certain rights. And we'll get into all those things as we go through the Old Testament. The rights of an indentured servant. And even into the New Testament. We'll still be talking about it. If you buy a Hebrew servant, he is to serve you for 6 years. But in the 7th year, he will go free without paying anything. If he came in by himself, he will go out by himself. If he had a wife when he came in, then his wife will go out with him. So 6 years you got him, the 7th year, boom, he's gone. You're going to see a pattern with the number 7 and the number 6. God made the day, he made the universe in 6 days, and he rested on the 7th. The Sabbath is the 7th day, and you're not supposed to do any work. If his master gave him a wife, and she bore sons or daughters, the wife and the children will belong to her master, and he will go out by himself. But if the servant should declare, "I love my master, my wife, and my children, I will not go out free," then his master must bring him to the judges, and he will bring him to the door of the doorpost, and his master will pierce his ear with an awl. And an awl is this little metal tool. Put his ear, it's like you're giving him an earring, piercing his ear. And he shall serve him forever. So it's not like the slavery we had in the United States, where they captured these people in Africa and brought them over, and then they were slaves. It was very hard for them to buy their way out of slavery. If a man sells his daughter as a female servant, she will not go out as the male servants do. If she does not please her master, who has designated her for himself, then he must let her be redeemed. He has no right to sell her to a foreign nation, because he has dealt deceitfully with her. So this is a little more than her as a servant. He wants her as a wife. If he designated her for his son, then he will deal with her according to the customary rights of daughters. If he takes another wife, he must not diminish the first one's food. So you can't get a new wife and fatten her up and let the other one starve. Her clothing or her marital rights. If he does not provide her with these three things, then she will go out free without paying money. So it's a lot different than the slavery we had in the United States and the slavery throughout the world today. Next, we're going to talk about personal injuries. Whoever strikes someone, so hits them, so that he dies, must surely be put to death. But if he does not do it with premeditation, but it happens by accident, then I will appoint for you a place where he may flee. So, we already saw in the Ten Commandments, thou shalt not kill, thou shalt not murder. But there's first degree murder, there's, with intent, where you go out and you say, hey, I'm killing this guy. You kill him. Whatever your reason was for doing that, you should pay the price for that. Be put to death. But then you have voluntary and involuntary manslaughter. You have murder, like second degree murder, where in Pennsylvania anyway, and that's where I was a cop. If you are committing a crime, you're robbing a bank and somebody dies, the cops come in and they start shooting at you and you're shooting back at the cops and you kill somebody. Well, you didn't go there to kill somebody. So that's, I believe, second degree murder. So they had all that stuff back here. They would say, okay, here's what the deal is. If you do it on purpose, you're going to die. But if it was an accident, so you have voluntary manslaughter and involuntary manslaughter. And voluntary, if I remember correctly, is you knew that the possibility was, if you did what you were going to do, that the guy would die. Like, you didn't try to kill him. You didn't kill him while committing a crime. But you knew that that was a possibility. And then involuntary manslaughter, which is, well, you should have known, but you didn't. And the guy died. But one thing here, and I think it's called leverate, can't remember the word. As you can tell, I don't do a lot of prep for these because I'm just reading through the Bible. But part of the leverate system had to do with if somebody took the life of one of your kinsmen, you had a responsibility to go out and kill him. Kill the guy. So if you killed him on purpose, well, hey, you're going to get killed by his family. They're just going to do it. But if it was an accident, that guy's still going to come out and try to kill you. So there's places that you can go. So let's read it again. Whoever strikes someone so that he dies must surely be put to death. But if he does not do it with premeditation, but it happens by accident, then I will appoint for you a place where he may flee. And I think that there were 7 of these. They're like, we have sanctuary cities in the United States now for immigrants who are here illegally, that if they go there, that they're not going to get sent back to their home country. And it's the same thing. If you go there, the people in these cities are bound, they're duty bound to keep you safe and not let the kinsman redeemer come in and kill the guy. But if a man willfully attacks his neighbor to kill him cunningly, you will take him even from my altar, that he may die. So even if he runs into the sanctuary, into the up to the altar in the Holy of Holies, you're allowed to grab him and take him out. Whoever strikes his father or his mother must surely be put to death. They weren't playing around back then. Whoever kidnaps someone and sells him or is caught still holding him must surely be put to death. Whoever treats his father or his mother disgracefully must surely be put to death. So let's see what disgracefully is. So it's anything that because in the 10 Commandments it was honor your mother and father. So it's anything that's not honoring your mother and father. I forget what a PL is. P-I-E-L. I studied a little Hebrew, but it was a long time ago. If men fight and one strikes his neighbor with a stone or with his fist, and he does not die, but must remain in bed, so he's injured, and then if he gets up and walks about outside on his staff, then the one who struck him is innocent, except he must pay for the injured person's loss of time and see to it that he is fully healed. So you beat somebody up in a fit of rage, you're not going to be put to death, but you have to take care of that person until they're well again. And you have to pay him damages. And this is all in the law now. I'm not going to get into all of it. But if a man strikes his male servant or his female servant with a staff so that he or she dies as a result of the blow, he will surely be punished. However, if the injured servant survives 1 or 2 days, the owner will not be punished, for he has suffered the loss. So it's saying you beat the person, but they couldn't work because you beat them up. So you're not making any money, so you already paid the price. But he'll be punished, and it doesn't mention what the punishment is if he dies. If men fight and hit a pregnant woman, and her child is born prematurely, but there is no serious injury, the one who hit her will surely be punished in accordance with what the woman's husband demands of him, and he will pay what the court decides. And we saw that Moses was here in all these cases, but then Jethro, his father-in-law, came out and went, dude, you need some people. So they appointed all these judges, different level judges. But if there is serious injury, then you will give a life for a life, eye for eye, tooth for tooth, hand for hand, foot for foot, burn for burn, wound for wound, bruise for bruise. So whatever it is, like you hit somebody and knocked their tooth out, they're going to take you and knock your tooth out. Serious, they didn't mess around. Let's look at the laws about animals. If an ox, and an ox is like a bull, it says that you can use either term. If an ox gores a man, so the ox has the horns coming out of their head, and if he runs at somebody and usually gets them like in their stomach or their side next to their stomach or right above their butt if they're running away, that's called goring, when they ram that one of those horns into a person and it goes in them, it stabs them. That's called to gore somebody. If an ox gores a man or a woman so that either dies, then the ox must surely be stoned, and its flesh must not be eaten, but the owner of the ox will be acquitted. So you kill the animal, because the animal's dangerous. For some reason, that domesticated animal decided to attack somebody. So you have to destroy the animal. But the person, they didn't know that this was going to happen. They would be acquitted. But if the ox had the habit of goring and its owner was warned, but did not take the necessary precautions, and then it killed a man or a woman, the ox must be stoned and the man must be put to death. If a ransom is set for him, then he must pay the redemption for his life according to whatever amount was set for him. So the court can say, okay, you have to pay this much money. If the ox gores a son or a daughter, the owner will be dealt with according to this rule. If the ox gores a male servant or female servant, the owner must pay 30 shekels of silver, and the ox must be stoned. If a man opens a pit, or if a man digs a pit and does not cover it, and an ox or a donkey falls into it, the owner of the pit must repay the loss. So the animal falls in there and probably breaks a leg and becomes worthless. They might have to put it down, and you have to get it out of the pit. So if you dig a pit and you don't set it up somehow so that animals can't fall into it, well, you're responsible. He must give money to its owner, and the dead animal will become his. So we're assuming, I didn't read ahead, but we're assuming that it falls into this pit and dies. So you have to buy it from the guy, but then you own it. You know, if it's an ox, you can have it butchered and eat it. If the ox of one man injures the ox of his neighbor so that it dies, then they will sell the live ox and divide its proceeds. And they will also divide the dead ox. Or if it is known that the ox had the habit of goring, and its owner did not take the necessary precautions, he must surely pay ox for ox, and the dead animal will become his. Okay, next we're going to move on to laws of property in Exodus chapter 22. Until then, peace out.